What?
Oh, you always fall for the same old shit. Just once, please. Can you try your hardest to make this interesting?
Whoa. What the fuck is this?
Carnesis! Ooh, you're gonna give me that attitude? You know, I usually make it easy for you, you ungrateful prick. But this time I'll let you see yourself out.
Yup, we dated.
Ah yes, Deathloop, the game developed by Arkane Studios and published by Xbox Game Studios. I mean Bethesda Game Studios. What's up guys, Veteran Gamer here, and today I'm reviewing Deathloop. And right away, judging by the opening clip, you can tell that this game has a sense of style, swagger, and a very entertaining dialogue between Juliana and Colt that will last throughout your entire playthrough. Upon firing up the game, when you get into the game's menu, you will see that there are 3 graphical modes to choose from on PlayStation 5. You have Performance, Visual Quality, and Ray Tracing. The Performance mode is no ray tracing with a solid 60 frames per second. The Visual Quality mode, however, is no ray tracing. Fidelity is actually favored instead, and it does target 60 frames per second, but it does have regular frame rate drops. The last option is ray tracing, and as it implies, ray tracing is turned on. The fidelity is set to the high settings, but the game runs at 30 frames per second. Given that this is a first-person shooter, it is without question that the performance mode is the way to play this game of the 3. I sampled all 3. I went through all 3. The big issue I have with the ray tracing mode is that the visual enhancements that you gain most definitely does not warrant playing a first-person shooter at 30 frames per second. I barely noticed an enhancement, to be honest. And even when you play it at the visual quality mode without the ray tracing, the frame drops are regular. Like you'll see in this clip here that the frames are dropping. And we were playing a first-person shooter and it has stuttering like that. It's just not good. So for me personally, the performance mode is the way to play this game, as it is a pretty solid 60 frames per second for the most part. Once you start your file and you start your playthrough, you have a tutorial. Now this tutorial actually lasts the duration of the first loop of the game. It actually teaches you how the game operates and how it goes through. Once you complete the first day loop, you will then have the shackles removed and it's full bore. And in saying that, that's when things like the roguelike elements kick in, which basically the way it works in this game is that when you die, you will have this thing called reprise, which gives you essentially 2 extra lives without starting the loop over. If you die 3 times in a single map, you will lose and you will have to restart the loop. In doing so, you will lose everything that you have earned for that given day, with the only exception being your information. All your information that you obtain will always stay with you regardless of the outcome. Throughout your playthrough, as you play, you will collect this thing called residuum, which is your in-game currency. So when you take this, like a roguelike, when you take the currency, this currency is used to purchase items and essentially infuse them into Colts so that when you do complete a loop or die, you don't lose the items, regardless if it's of a weapon, an ability, an ability upgrade. They are all there and they all cost residuum. So it is recommended that when you have enough residuum to purchase something that you want to keep, do so. Residuum is very, very generous. It comes very, very often. However, I spoke before about how you can die 3 times before having to restart the loop in a given map. When you die, you will drop the residuum that you have earned. You have to return to your body and collect it again, much like you would in a Souls game. Throughout your playthrough, after you complete your tutorial, you will gain these things called leads. These leads are essentially quests. And if you follow the leads, the game is actually very, very linear. Yes, you can choose which order to complete your leads. You can go back and forth between leads at any point. But you have to complete the leads in order to move the story along, to move the game along. It's not as free roam as Arkane's other game, Dishonored. It really isn't. Sure, general NPCs you can do as you see fit, but the actual 8 targets, there are certain targets that have to be killed a certain way, which kind of takes away from that freedom that Dishonored 1 and 2 both offered, and it's a little disappointing in my opinion. In terms of the core gameplay is, if you played Arkane's other titles, Dishonored 1 and 2, Prey, you will see that there's a lot of similarities between the two. But the gameplay itself is a Dishonored feel, it is an Arkane feel. Just the core gunplay mechanics are better than Dishonored, but not good enough. When you're talking about needing pinpoint precision, for some reason, regardless of how I adjusted my sensitivity, the gunplay felt off. It didn't feel as tight and precise as other first-person shooter games that I've played. But in terms of how it feels, well, when playing on PS5 and using the DualSense controller, Deathloop might contend for the best usage of the DualSense controller that I've ever used. You know, to me, Returnal and Ratchet & Clank are the top dogs, but this game is definitely in that conversation of being the best. The triggers are used really well. The vibration is used really well. The 3D audio is used really well. More so than I expected, maybe because, you know, Sony shelled out some money to ensure that they used it. But it really does help with the experience. Obviously, you know, the controller features are never a deal breaker at any point, but it does enhance what is already a great experience. But, you know, this is Colt. You're playing the game as Colt. You're playing mostly as Colt. However, you do have, of course, Juliana. Juliana, she hunts you down. No matter which way you play the game, there's 3 options. You could play single player, friends only invade, or full on online, anyone can invade you. Regardless of what you choose, Juliana will invade you, one way or the other. It does not matter, she will invade you. And sometimes she picks the utmost worst time to invade you, and you have to literally restart because of her. She's that much of a pain in the ass sometimes. In saying that, it is also fun to play as Juliana. Now, personally, I waited until I completed my playthrough as Colt to then flip over to Juliana. The ability to play Juliana unlocks after you complete the tutorial. But as I stated, I personally waited until after I finished the game. And playing Juliana is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun invading. It's a very big cat and mouse kind of game when you're playing as Juliana. But in saying that, playing as Juliana works best when you're invading a friend. It's unfortunate that Arkane does not allow you to, I guess you could personally invite a friend to say, hey, I want you to invade me, we can have a cat and mouse kind of game. They don't let you do that, unfortunately. You can invade your friends, but you can't invite a specific friend to invade you. Or you can't, as the invader, can't choose a specific person to invade on your friends list. It doesn't let you do that. And it's kind of crummy, but, you know, it would have been fun if you could. But in saying that, overall, Deathloop is a very, very good game. But it's not without its problems. First and foremost, because there is somewhat of a roguelite element into this game, the game can feel repetitive. You have only 4 maps to choose from. The maps themselves are not very big. And because you do have to go through them multiple times, it does drag the game out, and the game does feel repetitive because you're going through the same areas over and over again. Then there was the performance issues. I mentioned before how there was frame drops in the other performance modes, which is present. Other ones was the game did crash on me once or twice. And there were also AI. The AI is pretty stupid. I mean, you could just look at this one scene here where the AI is literally just walking into a door. Nah, it's not a game breaker or anything like that, but it is funny to see, and, you know, the AI is pretty stupid. And the story itself, it falls flat in my opinion. I don't want to spoil too much or say too much about the overall story, but it does fall flat. Like, the bantering between Juliana and Colt is what makes the story. but unfortunately, it leaves much to be desired when you finish the game. I don't want to say any more about it. There is the positive that this game does have 3 endings. So there is a reason to revisit multiple times and try your luck. It's just, unfortunately, I don't know why Arkane and the message was, like, confusing people with, is this linear, is this not? It's a linear game in my opinion. I mean, all you have to do is follow the quests, and then once you investigate all your 8 targets, it gives you the one quest that says, hey, this is how you kill all 8 targets in one day. And as I stated previously, some of them have to be done a certain way. You don't have the freedom that you would in something like Dishonored. But overall, front to back, I enjoyed my playthrough of Deathloop. I enjoyed it very much. It's another good game from Arkane Studios. They've never disappointed me personally, so I personally was looking forward to this game. It was really good. Not the best. There is some issues with it, but overall, I enjoyed it, and I recommend this game to anyone who's a fan of Arkane Studios or is just looking for something to play. This is a really good game. I'm giving Deathloop an 8 out of 10. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.